Good evening, everyone. I would like to first mention that I have to record this on my phone. My computer is currently not working with the audio description right now. I'm gonna have to get that fixed in order to accurately complete this assignments. But for my informative presentation, my title of it is Learning is Key. The specific purpose is to inform my audience and gaining an education in a traditional/slash non-traditional environment. So to start off, I believe that education in the world is a necessary part of living, and there are many ways to learn new values of this. So, in many non traditional ways, as well as non traditional ways, you see that many people believe that college is the main way to go. However, there are many other opportunities that can be offered in your local community, in your local education facilities, or in other various aspects of it. Many sources of education can be seen in the normal way of college expression, for example, in the more traditional sense. But if you look in the non traditional way, such as vocational schooling, which in terms this includes but not limited to apprenticeships, internships, trade school, craft schools, etc. Each method of education it offers sustainability to different people in specific fields, and it kind of lines up with more of their soft and hard skills and their technical specialties rather than just sending them straight off to college, where the benefit is that they get a more traditional setting, but it may not be the best for them in their sense of learning and their sense of how they want to get their education. Most of the time, when gaining education, most people start off with their high school degree, or they get their GED or their JD, depending on how it is. Most of the time, high school is the first major stepping stone of how someone can view education. This is where you're influenced by many outside factors on how education should be valued, and each mindset in your early teens offers you different perspectives while you're on that cusp of adulthood. It's similar in the fact that since you are still technically a teenager, but you're growing into that adulthood phase, you start to make choices for yourself. You start to make various choices and impacts that will affect you later on in the future. And one of them is education. Many people in certain communities or in other various natures, they would drop out of school or they would attend another means of education. This I'm getting from one of my resources, the Jiang, Cheng, and Chen, with the research and the value of smart education in the era of big data. So a lot of the times, most students now that they drop out of high school, they kind of have to go back on like a global education setting, such as um, distance learning or website learning. To continue off on that, high school is an effective way to gateway of new education besides your non-traditional and traditional schooling, and depending on who you have in terms of your social networking and who you talk to, it can be very beneficial in those terms. um, Most of the time, high school is that open pot of how do you want to do your education, and a lot of people in today's modern era mostly go towards vocational learning, which I'm getting from my source of Siaki K. Mundi. The title is Students' Perceptions Toward Vocational Education on Online Learning, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the Weckler C., Dahlmiller M., and Kohler I source, using digital technology to promote higher education learning. In that retrospective, a lot of the times high school turns into a more modern internet-based learning system, as well as with college. So most traditional colleges nowadays, since with the COVID-19 pandemic in the modern world, people have to accept the online version of getting their education, while some trade schools, apprenticeships, and various other education benefits are not available to them because of the current modern world as we know it at this point. There also are there third party options besides the traditional way of college, as I mentioned, such as the um, more technical slash vocational skills that would be more beneficial to technical students in that retrospective. Um, in that regard, the third party options like apprenticeships and technical schools or trade schools can offer somebody more of a hands on learning experience. And some people are more manageable with their time management in that regard, and they're more generalized in terms of equal learning, and when you compare it to the traditional way of college learning. And I get that information from my source of Tricks of the Trade, Journal of Financial Planning, and as well as the Ozarka BO and CACUR-H, the comparison of collaborative and individual learning and online learning as well. Each of my sources can be located in the informative guideline, but most of the education that you see in today's world comes from a sense of what do people want to do and how it can lead them to further learning and success in their specific field of study. And depending on how the way education is taught in public schools or charter schools or vocational schools, some things may not be open to other people, or some things will get opened up to other people, depending on the network of people that the student and the teacher are able to be offered at that time. And depending on how they react to the education, it could be best suited for them in their specific career path, or they could go a whole nother different route and go towards a whole new learning aspect, such as vocational schooling outside of a non-traditional setting, as well as in the not traditional sit-down college setting as well. Thank you.